Now, looking at the cover of this book written by Yaakov Kronenberg, Jewish Astrology, Cosmic Science, and you'll see as we proceed in this book how much science there really is involved in this. Torah, Talmud, and Zohar works on spiritual astrology. So I was looking here, and let's see, this is a picture of the Zodiac. It has all the planets and all of the houses. Well, you can't, this actually just shows you the houses. Notice that everything is a circular pattern. So we have to understand that once again, the Holy Ari says that this world, the rabbis refer to this world as the world of wheels. So here you have a picture of the zodiac, and the zodiac is wheels. And here we have, let's just say, for example, this is the word summer. So these would be the houses that refer to the summer. So in in uh, in astrology, you have three basic concepts that have to be learned. One is the planets, the other one is the houses, and then you have also the relationships between the planets, the houses, and the different energies that you find along with the planets in their houses. So all of that's, and then there's spring, and you see winter is down here at the bottom, it's upside down, and autumn. So all of this has to do with the beginning. Actually, the chart, which we'll see later on of Adam Rishon, begins with Aries. Now let's go open up the book, and he was into some really, really good stuff yesterday, teaching a lot of astrology, really. So let me see how I can get this in, if I can make some room for myself. Here, this is where we are. We're reading right here, and I recommend to anyone. I bought this book for $25. I get one to my granddaughter. I give it to people, different people, because he needs to be supported. This is something not easy to find people who really understand the Kabbalah of astrology and the astrology of Kabbalah. So remember here. Here's where we're starting. There are seven planets in the ancient system, and each rules over 3 or 4 different hours of each day. Also, there is a considerable difference between the energies imparted to a person who was born in daylight or at night. So we have to understand the nature of energy. Energy is constantly changing and fluctuating, as if you had, say, for example, a great light that was shining around a wheel, the one we just saw, that's continuously turning. And so as it's turning, it's changing what's inside of it. So he says, we haven't talked about this much yet. This is part of ancient astrology too, and is of great importance because although we made a chart of the hours of the day using the illustration of the medical procedures mentioned in the Talmud of bloodletting, I skipped that part, and we divided each day into 24 hours, and we see that every day can be divided into 24 hours. We were really focusing on the hours of the day. There we were talking about the hours and the changes in the hours, and not on the hours of the night. But there we only talked about the daytime. The question of where planets were at night didn't interest us because people then did not let blood at night. And that was about the concept. Now we don't bloodlet anymore, but there for thousands of years, that was a form of medical treatment. So for bloodletting, night hours are irrelevant. So you can only we're what they were talking about there is what if you had to let blood, uh, what would be the best times to do that? That could be determined by astrology. So he says, so far, bloodletting night hours are irrelevant. So bloodletting was not done at night. But for astrology, there's a great difference between the times of day or night, and whether a person was born during the day, whether the person was born at night. So let us give an example. Mars is not considered a bad planet because, or excuse me, I said it wrong. Mars is considered a bad planet. Now he calls these malefics, planets that can do harm, because it is too hot. So its element has a nature that is too hot, which turns a person into a blood spiller or an angry person and argumentative, etc. But that refers mainly to a person born in a Martian hour of the day or on a Martian day. So there are Martian days apparently, and there are hours of the day that refer to the influence of this planet Mars. Well, we say it the planet of Mars, but we mean to say and be clear, it is the light of God refracted through the solar system, and in this particular case, Mars. But if he was born at night, it would not be so bad. But even if he was born on a Martian hour, because Mars is cooler at night, so it's not so hot. So a Martian person born at night is better. In other words, he won't be so malefic. But this would be the opposite with Saturn, since Saturn is cold. So if a person is born during the day, he warms up his Saturn a little bit, but not during the night. So there are considerable differences between day and night. Do you understand? Another question people ask me is, how does one determine the hours in the fixed creation system of the Talmud? Now, I'm not sure that I know what this means. He said, because each hour, as written on the chart, is divided by 60 minutes, and each planet rules over 60 minutes. Now how this works? From 6 to 7 at night, it is Saturn. From 7 to 8 at night, it's Jupiter. From 8 to 9 is Mars. 9 to 10 is the Sun. 10 to 11 is Venus. 11 to 12 is Mercury. 12 to 1 is the Moon. And then you start over again with Saturn. Wow. I was born at 140, and I was born under the influence of Saturn. I'd like to say that I was one of the nicest, sweetest guys in the world, but I have a little Saturnian personality. It's not all of my personality, as we'll see as we go on. It's not just so simple. But I was born at 1:40 in the morning, so he's telling me over here that this is Saturnian time. The first hour and the second starts with Saturn. Then we start going around that circle that we saw at the beginning. Then Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Moon. And it continues all week, from the furthest planets to the one closest to Earth and back. And this is called using the regular hours. Now, that's a phrase I'm not familiar with. That's what he says. But there are also hours called in Hebrew Shalzmanu. So that's regular hours. And what he meant by that was an hour is 60 minutes. But if you take a 24-hour day and you're going to try to make everything equal in that time, then you're going to get into the concept of Shalzmanu, which are called relative hours. Like in summer, the day is longer than night. So there are 18 hours of sunlight and 6 hours of night. So you look at the chart and say we go according to relative hours. We divide the 18 hours of sunlight into 12 units of daytime, and get an hour until we find that an hour there is not 60 minutes, but it's 90 minutes. So he says, which is different to the secular 60 minutes hour. So this is called Shaul's Zamanius. So he says, also at night, each hour would be less than 60 minutes because the night is very short. We divide the 6 hours by 12 and get 30 minutes hours. So the hours of the day are different to the hours of the night. So in this case, the relative hour, that is, approach, changes all the time with the seasons, and the regular hour approach, which is set as shown in the chart above, would only be accurate for 2 days a year from the perspective of the relative hour approach. So I don't see the chart, but maybe there is a chart, and we'll see it in a minute. I don't know. So he says, so one has to take all this into consideration. And the more correct system, in my opinion, is the system of regular hours. So the astrologers also go through this too. So he says the regular hours, each one is 60 minutes. So the planetary influence is not so simple. And you see that in this system, brought down in the Talmud, there are a couple of causes to human nature and planetary influences. The Kabbalists go even further by taking into consideration the week you were born in, and the month, the year, etc. But in the Talmud, the rabbis discussed all this only briefly in relationship to bloodletting. So they gave the days and the hours only. That's going to be it for tonight. This is Baruch Fleischman with the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and we have been listening to Rabbi Yaakov Kronenberg, master astrologer, Kabbalist.